Okay, there she is.
Oh,
Hello, hello. Hi, Lydia. Just giving the foundation of tonight's topic, subtopic. And I was just telling people that today is about unpacking how the growth journey requires us to actually tap into our creative selves. And that does not necessarily mean being an artist or, having to be a creative. It rather means when the going gets tough, which is something we've already realized about the growth journey, that when things get rough, when the growing gets tough, we are able to tap into our creative selves so that we can troubleshoot and problem solve, as well as add a little bit of flavor in the growth journey so that we have some fun. And a good way of having fun is getting to understand your own expression of what creativity looks like. And tonight is going to be about that. I'm looking forward to it. And welcome to everybody who is joining us. And before we get to the buffet, of course, the starter is finding out about our guest of honor. Lydia, please tell us a little bit about who you are, what do you do, and what are you passionate
oh
about?
my goodness. Well, first off, thank you so much for having me on this. I was so excited when you reached out to me because I've been watching some of these lives and I thought that is
Oh,
such an important thing to be able to do and to walk people through the process of growing and changing. And creativity is something I'm very passionate about. So
yeah.
I work right now as an artist. I have a small company that I run, just me. And then I also work as the kind of creative director, catch-all person for a company called the James Method. And we help women dive into the scriptures. And when you asked me about myself, I thought, wow, this is going to be a long question. So I feel like I'm like, oh, all over the place. But how I got to this spot that I'm doing now, I think is so funny because I had an art professor tell me once in college that, you're God's little artist. And at first I thought, what do you mean little? But it's so true though. I mean, it's so funny because, when I was in college, I had this art passion and drive. And so I ended up working at a museum when I was in high school all the way through. And when I graduated college early with an art degree, I thought, all right, I have a job lined up with this museum. Everything's going to go great. Simple, easy, I'm going to be an artist. And the job fell through right before I graduated. I called them and they said, there's no job for you. And I thought, God, I'm supposed to be your artist. What did you do? Why did you let this happen? And so I thought, well, I don't know what to do next, but I know God had a plan. I said, I trust you. All right, what's next? And so, he got me a job at this local newspaper, and I kind of grew with them a little bit. They liked my work. God showed me favor there, so I ended up being hired into their parent company and writing for them as well. And then I just felt conviction. I felt God say, there's more things that I want you to do. I want you to do more than just write about people's lives. I want you to help them. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. The only way I know how to do that, I wasn't thinking as creatively as I could about I could use my art to do it. But I thought medically. So I ended up pursuing, going full bore into the medical field. I worked nights, I worked days, and I ended up just pursuing this medical degree. Ended up getting into a doctorate of nurse practitioner program, and I was like full bore on that, but always creatively making work on the side. And I always wanted to use my art when I was working with psychiatric patients, and even ended up some of the nurses trained me on how to do some mini art therapy projects with people. So even then, God was like, there's more, there's work here. And so that was kind of, I ended up from there, while I was in school, meeting my husband, and we ended up getting married. And he always saw this artistic side of me, even though at the time I was pursuing this science career. And he was so encouraging, and he's a strong Christian, so he and I would pray about, what is this artistic gift that you have? What are you going to do to use it more than just, having it on the side as like a side gig that I would do. And during COVID, as everything was happening, the stress of working with patients, the stress of all that stuff, you can imagine I used a lot of art to work through all of those things. And I was working on a book. So I've written this book on approaching God with confidence and freedom, and I illustrated it as well. And as I was working on it, I felt God just say, it's time. it's time for you to go into the art world again full
Yeah.
time. And I thought, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to do that anymore, God. That was an old dream. And I felt him say, it's not. I want you to do it. And I thought, well, that's an insane thing to do during COVID. You know, this nursing career is set and people need me and on all these things. And I just, I felt God say, you know what, they need art. The world needs to see beauty and joy right now. And I felt convicted about that. And I told my husband, and we prayed about it for months and months. We, trying to figure out if this was the right call. And then one day I just thought, nope, like I was praying with one of my friends and we both felt God's conviction. I'm like, okay. I called up my boss and I said, I'm not coming back. It's my 2 weeks.
Wow.
So I jumped in and from there, God just ended up opening up so many doors, just, mural opportunities, art show opportunities, and they weren't always financially gainful, but it grew, and God was allowing it to grow and just giving me more client base. And he ended up from there, one of my friends actually, who owns her own business now after pursuing God, she sent me this journal in the mail just randomly, and I ended up reaching out to the person who created it because I thought, this is beautiful, this is a piece of artwork. And from that reaching out, which my husband actually encouraged me to do, so from that reaching out, I ended up like working together. We slowly ended up doing projects here and there together, and now I work for her mostly full time as her creative person. And it's such an amazing gift. It's called the James Method, by the way. I don't know if I mentioned that, but it's just a way to dive into scripture, to dive into the Bible, but we make these beautiful art products that go with it. And so people can creatively explore their faith while they're also creatively exploring, the artistic side. And it's a role that I never even knew was possible. And if I had just told God, nope, I'm not going to do it, like, that's too complicated, I don't know how to do that, I would not have ended up here.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing.
Long answer to that question.
Not a problem. Thank you for taking us through your growth journey, actually. And in you speaking, it's already coming out how you had to tap into your own creativity, even when you were in spaces that were not necessarily talking to your artistic gift, but you were still able to find opportunities to infuse the artistic wiring in you, in your work still. That's you tapping into your creativity right there. And that's you laying out, using your life as a case study to show us already that we were created all with that innate ability to be creative. And that does not necessarily mean we are all called to be artists or be creative, but it just means it's a human trait that sets us apart from all the other creatures. No other species can be creative like we are, but we human beings have been designed with the ability to be creative. So I love that. And while we're on that wave of creativity, what is your understanding, Lydia, of creative?
It's so funny that you said that too, about how we all are creative, because that is something that I say to people all the time. They say, oh, you're so creative. Every one of us is very creative, especially for me. I believe we're all created in the image of God. And one of the ways we are created in his image is that we are all creators, whether that is a way to, you walk into the room, you are creating an atmosphere just by walking in the room. And I think a lot of people think that, and you're creating when you make your schedule for the day. Someone wants to, like, oh, I'm an executive assistant, or I'm a this, so I'm not creative. And I thought, you are so creative. You're creating the day for this person that you work for. I mean, it's just amazing to me that we as human beings downplay this incredible gift of creativity, which I think is, just to answer your question, a way to live our lives in I would say an artistic way, to be curious about the way that we go about doing our lives, to not just look at a problem and say, well, there's nothing I can do about that, and say, how do I solve this? There's a way to solve this. And if I think if we started to look more at things around us as, this is a creative problem to solve, and not so much as, this is such a struggle that I have to go through. No, this is a creative opportunity. I think that's
Mm.
that's a way to deal with, especially when we're growing through and changing, and we have all these different seasons of life that we are working through, and things that, you know, are truly deep struggles that people go through. We're
Mm.
looking at it and saying there is a way to look at this problem that I'm dealing with curiosity,
I
and to
love that.
find ways that I can make it beautiful, even though what I've been given is not beautiful. So
Mm. I
that's,
love that.
yeah, yeah,
I love that. Having the curiosity to look at something as an opportunity to think creatively around it. And I think that will enable one to continue tapping into their creative self and learn more on how that is actually expressed. Like, how is that manifested when it comes from Tabea? Because it's different. My kind of creativity is not the same as how you are creative, but we're still tapping into our creativeness. I love that. So, as I was preparing as usual for this live, I happened to bump into this incredible article I got from exploringyourmind.com. And this is just a small extract I got from it, and I want to read it to you. And I want to hear what are your thoughts on this. It says, creativity is no longer exclusive of artists. Instead, it's a crucial skill for any kind of professional that goes beyond production and innovation. Creativity is part of an individual's personal development. What are your thoughts on that statement?
I love that. I love that more people are thinking about that, because we are we are all, like we were talking about, we're all so creative. And so if we are able to look at our lives and understand that we have creativity, then the way that we go about our lives is more, I don't want to say more fun, because that sounds very shallow, but we can enjoy it more
Mm,
if we recognize that there are many options to do things, and
mm,
there are many
mm,
ways to do things. And I think it gives us a better
mm,
understanding of the people around us too, because if
mm,
you just think about, oh, well, you know, this is my life, and this is all there is, we're not, you know, we're not necessarily, the creative mindset of even just to put yourself in someone else's shoes is a creative
mm,
action.
mm.
You know, to look at someone and say, I don't know why you do what you do. Let's be creative about this. Or I don't know why we're having this problem. Let's be creative about
Yeah,
this. Let's figure out solve this.
sure. I love
And I
that.
think that, yeah, so I love that quote. Absolutely, it's a skill that I think more people are starting to realize is, you know, it's not just for the artists, it's not just for the musicians, it's not just for,
Yes,
you know, the
yes,
photographers of the world. We are all innately creative.
yes.
And I think that once we look at ourselves that way, it can also give us
Mm,
a, you know, gives people a, I don't know, sometimes when I make work and people see me, if I'm out working, they think, oh, you know, they say, I wish I could do that. I always want to say,
mm,
you can. Maybe not exactly the way I do, which I always joke with. Well,
yes.
good. If you took enough time to practice, I've spent so long drawing that if you took as many hours as I did, I'm sure that you could do it too. But it's the truth, you know, it's what you spend time on, but maybe you don't want to do that. And so what is, like you were saying, what is your specific way that you feel you're connecting with this inner child that we all have? We all have this inner child that loves to
Mm,
play, and play is creative. And if we can connect with that, with what we, when we were growing up, there was something that we loved to do. And
mm,
whatever that thing
mm.
is that we love to do, that's creative play in a
That's
lot of ways.
true.
And
That's
so,
true.
yeah, so if we can find those things, and
Mm.
we can do them and find a way to fit them into our lives. Like maybe, you know,
Yes.
when you're growing up, you had, you know, you just really loved listening to, I don't know, a certain kind of song, and it made you want to dance, or finding a ways to bring that into your life. And
Mm.
yeah, anyways, sorry, went
I
off.
love that. I love that. And I think what you said is very critical. Finding ways of infusing creativity in our everyday lives is what will lead us to eventually enjoy our lives. Because ultimately, that's the whole point. I mean, the word tells us that we need to enjoy. It's in Psalms. It says we are blessed on this side of eternity. So we need to taste heaven on earth first before we go back home. So one of the things that God delights in seeing us is enjoying our lives, something that many of us are struggling. A lot of us are, yes, hustling, grinding, the words of the world of this culture. We are doing a lot to earn a living and take care of our responsibilities, what. But in the process, I see that we are losing the joy of in the process, the enjoyment. And I think if we started weaving into our everyday life, creativity, the ability to just tap into our creative will make it more fun. I mean, today I decided I want to show my creative side. I'm gonna put on this nice scarf, which is a scarf for my neck, but it can be for my head as well. And I'm just gonna add a bit of creativity just to simulate to everyone what this looks like in everyday life.
No, it's beautiful. I was going to say that when we got on. I was like, oh, I love how you did that. I wish I had done something similar now. You're inspiring me.
So the growth journey is a journey that we all know is very difficult. It's filled with challenges. And however, how can we use creativity to add fun and enjoyment to our growth journey? So I want you to think of practical things. How can someone start adding, that fun, that enjoyment in their everyday life using their own creativity?
Yeah, I definitely would encourage people to just think about the things that they enjoyed doing when they were little. I mean, really think about that. It seems so simple, but I loved art and sticky notes when I was little. I just loved it. And so even when I was working as a nurse, for instance, I found a way to make, we call them as a nurse like a brain sheet, but it's basically, you've got your patients that you have, and then you find a way to, like I would find a way to make that brain sheet as a nurse creative looking. So I would make it like very pretty and organized, and that was just the way that as a nurse I just made my sheet creative. But you can do that in so many ways. So like if someone, I'm trying to think of like a specific example, but I think it really comes down to thinking about the things that you love doing as a kid and finding a way to weave them into your life. So
I love that.
now I'm like trying to think of something specific that's not just as an artist. That's my way to
Yeah.
do the opposite. But I think
I
there's
can I can add to say how we cook,
yeah,
you tap into your creativity, how you dress, you tap into your creativity,
yeah.
how you problem solve at work. For instance, in my world as a personal development coach, I infuse a lot of art in my work, and you've seen it now that you've joined the challenge. I'm trying to help people tap into their own inner child because I've realized for myself how that is helping me in my own growth and personal development journey. Each time I allow myself moments to tap into my inner child, it's so therapeutic. It makes me come alive. I get excited. It changes my mood automatically. It gets me to a state of mind where I am great. I can think. I get excited. I'm hopeful. So think of those things. How do you pack your child's lunch in a manner that taps into your creativity? You can take a cookie cutter and cut hearts into the sandwiches. You can write a sticky note and put it in the lunch tin. It's a note that they'll find. Just try to, yeah, be creative.
Yeah,
Think of
and I
it. I
think
don't know. Do things that will allow you to kind of step out of your comfort zone that you've built now that you're an adult. Build into your life or everyday life systems or strategies that will allow you to tap into that inner child, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think that phrase like tapping into our inner child can sometimes be misconstrued. I have friends who are like, oh, that's so artsy fartsy, like I'm an adult, I don't need to tap into my inner child. But I would challenge, there's a verse in scripture that says, if you don't come to me like a little child, then you don't get into heaven at all. And that's a
Yes.
challenging concept. I'm like, okay, like you have to welcome, you have to trust God in a way that is hopeful like a child. You have to be willing to say, I don't have all the answers sometimes. And I think that is
Yes.
in a reverse
I
way
love that.
very, very mature to recognize that
I love
we
that.
can't always be adults in every part of our lives because there are a lot of
Mhm.
things that we don't know the answers to. And it's a way to live with humility to say, I do not know the answer, or I don't even know what's going to necessarily help me right now. I need to ask, a
Mm.
parent, like, what did I like, or a friend, those types of things. But I think that just being able to play and to say like, all right, like right now, like I understand, like we all have things that we must do. We have a lot of responsibilities, and I'm sure there are people watching this live who, are going through incredibly difficult challenges. I've been through stuff in my life where I'm like, I've lost joy. I have had moments and months where I'm not a happy person. I don't know how to work through that, but taking time to create work and to just remember that there is joy in the world. We do sometimes have to choose it. And my mom used to say, sometimes you pump the well before the water comes, and that's okay. But one of the ways to do that is just to find the way to play and be creative a little bit. And I do think we lose sight of that oftentimes in this super busy world that we have that's going to constantly challenge us to, be know more answers, do more things, grind harder, work harder, make more money, have a better car, have this, have that. And I don't think we need all of that. I don't think that we really want all those things, but we get stuck in this wheel of I have to, I must. And I heard someone say once, God made us human beings, not human doings. And
That's true.
I've always loved that. Because I thought, that maybe that's part of it, because we just need to sit and be a little bit, whether that's just sitting and enjoying a good song, or, sitting in it, or making some fun, cooking, like cook something delicious and just for fun, not because you have to make anything.
Yes,
It's enjoyable to you, so.
Yeah, I love that. Sure. So how have you, reflecting on your own growth journey, how did you have to use your own creativity to navigate through the challenges that you have encountered in your own growth journey?
Absolutely, yeah. So especially when I was working on the psychiatric unit, that was very challenging. And I actually was trying to illustrate a book at the time I was working there. And it was so helpful because I would have these incredibly dark moments, like counseling a patient, and it would just be it would be so sad to hear the stories that people would say. And then I would come home and I would cry sometimes on my drive home, because I was like, I don't know what to do with these emotions. And I would just let them out. And then I would come home and I would just paint. I would just paint, and I would say, I don't know what to do, but I'm just going to paint out my emotions, because, and sometimes it would look like very specific illustrations, and I would just allow myself to just think, all right, I'm only going to think about this simple children's book right now. It's just a story of, a bunny and a bear, and I'm going to let myself just think about that for a little bit, because these are complicated emotions, but I would still cry and let it out. And then working during COVID, I would write a lot, I think. And that's another thing that I do, which I feel like I tell everyone about this, so I'm going to do it again here, which is just writing and journaling is one of the best outlets. And I feel like we all can write. Maybe some people think I can't draw, maybe it frustrates people if they don't have the skills and they don't want to take the time to grow those, and that's fine. But we all have the ability to write, and sometimes it's good at the beginning of the end of the day to just take a few minutes and write about your day, say like, all right, today I did X, Y, and Z, or today I hope that X, Y, and Z happens. And just, things that you can do is just at the end of the day. And I use this skill because I suffered from depression when I was really little, and it was a hard time, but I used journaling as a coping skill.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah, God was so generous. I mean, that was a difficult time, but it was an amazing experience, because I feel like there were a lot of skills that he used to help me work through that time. And my family obviously was incredible, but just writing and saying at the end of every day, what was I thankful for? What happened during the day that I'm really glad happened? And then slowly became, what am I looking forward to today? Because if you're in the deep, dark place, it's really hard to see things that are good. It's really hard to see things that are beautiful. And if you're so busy because of responsibilities that you can't even imagine having a moment to breathe, taking a few minutes to write in the beginning of the day and say, I hope that I get 5 minutes today to breathe. And when it happens, you can be thankful for that and remember. And now I go back, a decade ago and see prayers that I prayed that God has answered today. And I forgot. I forgot he answered those. And our memories can be fickle. So it can be good to prime the pump in that way, to creatively say, what are what are the options here? What can I look forward to? What can I be thankful for? And I
Um,
think that helps us maybe take some pressure off ourselves too.
yeah,
It's good
yeah.
in the world. They're still good.
Love that. And I just want to make everyone aware that you also tapped on you touched on gratitude, and you said when we find, the ability to reflect on the good even when we're going through tough times, that just actually made me realize how you need to use your creativity to really see the good when things are bleak.
Yeah.
You tap into your creativity because it allows you to reframe, to check things from different perspective. You really need to tap into that your creative self to be able to do that. So even just keeping a gratitude journal and writing one sentence every day is you allowing your creativity to be expressed in the form of gratitude.
That's
So,
that's so
yeah,
good. Oh, I love that. That's so good.
that's amazing.
That's
That's
such a really good
amazing.
point because you do kind of
Yeah.
have to sift through things. You have to find the things that you're thankful for and really sift
Mm.
through it and find a way to write it out.
Yes.
That's good. I hadn't thought about that either.
Thank the Holy Spirit. I thank Him. So people often think that to be creative, you need to be an artist. What are the practical things a person can do to intentionally invest in tapping into their creative self?
That's a good question. I would say, taking the time to give yourself the space to do it is probably really important. I feel like if you want to be more creative and you want to tap into your creative side, I think, people don't always recognize it. It will take a little bit of time. You can't just sit down and immediately, whatever it is you're trying to do, whether that is playing an instrument or that is learning how to draw something or that is becoming a more adept photographer or getting good at planning a room or getting good at cooking. I mean, it takes some time, but to be appreciative of the journey. And I think that's something that I have to remind myself this a lot. So I will say this is, don't despise small beginnings. And that's a scripture, but it's the truth, which is, everyone has to start somewhere. It's okay to not be good at it when you start, and to recognize that even at the smallest phase, right? Like you plant a seed, you can't see anything. It has to die in order to grow. Like there's just
Yes.
see anything. And it's
Yes.
just the practice of recognizing that you are starting. And that's awesome. And God is proud that we start. But even if you don't believe in God, like just recognizing that it will take time and you have to start somewhere. So you might as well enjoy being kind of bad at it and laughing at yourself. It's kind of
Yeah.
funny when we see people stumble a little bit because they trip and that's old classic funny comedy. But we can laugh at ourselves too. I laugh
That's
at
true.
myself a lot. I'm the other day I was trying to make something and I just was trying to make content for the James Method and I just looked so goofy. I was giggling at myself. I was like, "You look silly, girl. No, don't wear this outfit. No, don't do that."
That's
So
true.
I would
I
say that be
absolutely
okay with
love
being a
that.
beginner.
Love that. I love that. I think you've said beautiful things about appreciating, the journey and allowing yourself to start, start something, whatever it is that you're interested in. And you're encouraging me to, start scheduling time to open that modeling clay I bought in December and
Yeah,
start playing and doing something. I even bought paint. Oh my word. Yeah, you are
that's
convincing
awesome.
me.
That's so good.
But yeah, we should. And I'm asking this because I often in the work that I do try to infuse art, and I see how adults kind of struggle when they see things that need them to be playful. They resist it. And I'm here to encourage all of us on this live and the ones who will see it in future to say, when you grow old, it doesn't mean you need to grow cold. I say this to my kids at church. When we're growing old, we don't need to grow cold. We need to stay fired up and keep that child in us going. And sometimes it means buying a doodling book or those books, the coloring books and colors, and use that as self-care to take care or detox your mind from thinking deep thoughts, and you color not for perfection, not for money, not because you want to create content, but because you know it's good for you. You know that it's also good to step out of your comfort zone in doing something you've never done before. It's so good on so many levels. It's an outlet, and you don't have to show anybody, so it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to tell anyone, so you don't have to post it on reels or on. So I think our another issue is that we want to do things because we need to show people, and therefore it has to be perfect. So I'm just encouraging someone who would really love to just draw and it's a stick man, do it, because nobody has to see you, and you don't have to tell anyone, and you don't have to show anyone, but do it because you know it's one of the things that can really help you exercise mental hygiene, to keep all the negativity that we are exposed to every day, by doing these things that really take care of our mental health.
So good. I love that you said those things. I'm like, oh yes. I do think that the social media aspect, while I do believe anything that we like man-made, we can use it as a really good tool, or it can be used as a time waster and not healthy for us at all. It is a sickness that we are struggling from, that we want to share
True,
everything that we
true.
all the time, and that's not
Yeah.
how we were created. Like we just weren't made to have everything we do on display all the time. Although, so I just feel like we have to be able to just do things privately and we don't have to tell the world about it. And that's okay. If you want to tell people, by all
Yeah,
means,
if you
don't
want to
be,
share, of course,
do
yes,
it, but
yes.
don't feel shame when you make something. Like, I think we all kind of struggle with the comparison game where, we like, oh, well, I know I made this, but now I'm afraid to share because I wanted to, but I saw someone else made something better. Then it's like, don't not
Mm,
share because you're scared, but also
yeah,
don't feel like you have to share because you have to
true.
tell everyone what you did. And it's a tough balance, but I think as long as we're evaluating our own heart posture when we do things,
Yes.
that's when it can become, that's where the challenge will just come in, which is like, all right, well, just start for you. And if you do want to share with someone, then just recognize, don't feel shame when you do, if someone, doesn't like it or
Okay.
whatever. But if you feel comfortable enough and you do want to share, by all means, let people know about it. But don't just share to share,
Mm,
because our lives
mm,
are so much more rich when we don't constantly have to put them on display, because then we just become
mm.
shells.
Yeah,
No, there's no
that's
rich
so true.
interior in there.
Mm,
We don't want that. We don't want
mm.
masks.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Thank you, Lydia, for sharing that.
Yeah,
As
of
we
course.
go towards the end of our conversation, I mean, there's two more questions before we leave. What is the benefit of awakening the creative in you? What's the benefit of awakening the creative in us?
I think it makes us richer people.
Mm,
Honestly, it makes our interior lives richer because we are tapping into more parts of ourselves that we don't want to think about, all these different things. But as we are tapping into our creative side, for instance, I was talking with like a chief technology officer of this very big company, and we started talking about creativity, and he started telling me how he's so grateful to take time from what he does, this big, heavy thinking stuff, and to take time and be creative, because he feels like that actually allows him then to start solving things in a different way, because he's
wow.
starting to think about his problems in a new way now that he's
Mm,
he's played around with the problem. And there's actually this I think it's an old Japanese proverb, but I can't remember for sure. But basically, they used to say, all right, when we're in the boardroom and we have this big problem, we want to take the problem out of our minds and put it on the table. And so we'll all ask questions about the problem, and we'll put the issue that we're trying to solve on the table. And then we'll walk around the problem mentally, basically, and try to look at the problem from all these different
mm,
angles and be able to address that problem now. And
mm,
I love that, because that is a way to use our creativity to enhance all these other areas of our lives. So it's also a way to look at it with curiosity, I suppose, too. But
mm,
yeah, it enhances the way we look at things. It gives us new perspectives. It
mm.
allows us to give our brains a break so that we can
Yes.
refresh, go back to
Mm,
it. I think that's
mm,
we don't like to rest, but We have to.
Absolutely love that. Sure, yeah, it's true. Allows us to kind of sharpen our curiosity, our perspective. And you're right, just to give our brains and minds a break from focused thinking and do more of the wondering and the dreaming and the imagination, which kind of happens through the process of allowing yourself to be creative. I absolutely love that. And the last question before we go, I see people commenting and people are loving your feedback. Lydia, thank you so much. The comment that I can see now is from Niz. She says, that is really powerful. Take the problem out of our minds and put it on the table and walk around it and look at it. Absolutely love it. Yes, creativity helps to sharpen our problem-solving skill. Science has proven that the more you allow yourself creative time, the more you are able to problem solve better. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I love that. Absolutely love that.
You think, I sometimes think, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, yeah, of course, like we're all creative, we do that automatically, but it's not as automatic for some people, and it's funny to me because I can't imagine my life without writing or without music or without creating art, and yet I feel like it's not automatic in everyone, and so we need to recognize that there's just so many ways to be creative. It doesn't have to look like the way that other people think about it as, even as our own brains may think about it as. There's a lot of options there. So anyway, sorry, another question.
That's true. I appreciate that. Our last question. What are your words of encouragement for a person who really struggles with engaging in activities that challenge them to tap into their own creativity?
That's a great question. I think that we need to give ourselves the kind of like what we were talking about earlier. We need to just give ourselves the permission to not feel like it has to be perfect, and to give ourselves the grace to just have the space to do it, and to just say, you know what, and start small. That's the other thing, because sometimes I once gave a woman, she really wanted to paint, and I gave her this big canvas because she was like, I just would really like that. And I was like, sure, take it, but I think that the size of it scared her, and she was like, it's too. She's like, and months later, I said, have you done anything? Do you like it? And she's like, I haven't done anything yet. And I thought, I gave her one that was too big. I should have told her, no, you don't want this size. It's too big. It's too big. Just start small, and simple. Don't feel like, oh, I have to go out, and now that I want to, I've decided I want to make time for it, whatever. And you go and buy all these things, and you go and do all this stuff. Sometimes we make this big thing in our mind about something, when the reality is you don't need expensive tools. You don't need to go buy new things. You don't need to go do all this stuff in order to start something. You can just take 5 minutes and breathe and think, what did I love to do when I was growing up? Or I think I'd like to draw a little bit, or I think I want to start writing poetry, and just write a line, and don't feel ashamed about it. You're new, I think that's the other thing. Just recognize it. It's okay that it's not going to be good when you start. No one's perfect when they start.
Yeah, that's true. I love that. Sure. So everybody, start small. Take 5 minutes to think about the things that used to get you fired up when you were young. Sometimes it was playing with sand. Maybe now it can be you buying Play-Doh or creating it yourself from dough at home. So whatever it is, maybe it was dancing. Think of that song that makes you dance and just take 3 minutes to dance without worrying about you looking perfect while you do it. So I love it. Start small. Think about what gets you fired up and gets you, to be in a creative space. And yeah, allow yourself permission to not expect yourself to have it perfect, and enjoy it, if I may add that as well.
Absolutely, definitely. I love that.
Thank you so much, Lydia, for just sharing from your perspective as an artist. I really enjoyed our conversation today. Where can people connect with you who want to know more about what you do and your work?
Absolutely. Well, first off, I just wanted to say thank you again because this has been wonderful. I so appreciate being able to just have a conversation with you and just have been following you for a while. And I feel like you have such rich joy to offer the world. And I love your honest perspective on things. So thank you for having me on here.
Oh, good
Um,
to hear.
yeah. So my Instagram handle is Lydia Jane Art with a Y. I feel like I have to say that a lot, but it's down
Yes.
there. And I have a website too if people want to explore it. But mostly I work over at the James Method now, so that I can send that to.
Do you have a blog, a website, something like that?
Yeah, so it's just my Instagram handle, so it's www.lydiajaneart.com.
Awesome.
That's where I'm
Awesome.
on there. I used to blog a lot, but now I actually write every week for the James Method. We send out like an encouraging piece every week and like a little art and a little video. So if that's something that you're interested in getting some more encouragement on, feel free to sign up for those emails because I'll be the one sending them out. But yeah,
Thank
so
you. Thank you once again, Jane. It was a pleasure meeting you in person.
yes, you too.
And thank you to everyone who joined us tonight. I hope you were able to take something, out of this conversation and add it into your toolbox of your own growth journey. And I do hope you'll find pockets of time in your week or during your rest time this weekend to spend a little bit more time thinking about how to invest in your creative self. Thank you so much, everybody. Take care and good night. Cheers, Lydia.
Thank you so much. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye bye.